a direct answer to John Decker, our own White House correspondent. I always thought, never thought when I was in elementary school or junior high school in Swampscott, Mass, I could say our own White House correspondent. He asked that question a couple yesterday, President Trump. We're going to have more John Deckers on deck in this hour live. The very latest, and there's breaking news on the back and forth going forward. It looks like now the president's been able to connect with Vladimir Putin to get some more flexibility on the security piece, to put some troops into Ukraine as a protection, and trying to set up a meeting between Putin and Zelensky directly. As we get going this morning, good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, New Maine. Up into Maine, of course, we have extra signal strength now, FM, up into York County, Cumberland County, up into Maine. So they need more good news talk in Maine. We're fulfilling that gladly. And also right up Route 16, Ossipee into the Lakes region, we have additional FM signals on top of 107.3 FM and, of course, 107.7 FM. But worldwide, hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the pulse of an age, and thousands of you are listening each morning around the country and around the world on your app, the Pulse of an H, and, of course, our AM and FM network, making us the top choice for your news talk audio daily of anywhere in our region. So it's pretty cool. Thank you very, very much. Our poll question up on X this morning, Hurricane Aaron now, do you think we're going to feel by the end of the week or weekend in New England off the New Hampshire coast some high tides and stronger waves and currents, rip tide from that, rip currents or not? We're going to hear from some of the experts on that, and really North Carolina, the Outer Banks preparing today and tomorrow. And a very, very sad story out of Madbury, New Hampshire this morning before we get to our own Paul Steinhauser live. He reports nationally for Fox News and for us. 4 family members, 4 people, 2 children, 2 adults, 2 parents dead in Madbury, New Hampshire last evening. State police responding to a home in Madbury. And local sources telling Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H, that one of the parents shot 2 of her kids and the husband. So it's a murder-suicide, and one of the children apparently survived, but 2 children dead and 2 parents murder-suicide. Very, very, very sad and tough, rough story in Madbury, New Hampshire. It's a tight-knit community. People who grew up there, people who know each other in the area. Very, very, very sad story. So thoughts and prayers. All right, Paul Steinhauser, and he reports nationally for Fox, our own. Paul, good morning. How are you? Right. Paul, since you're in New York City and that mayoral race, it's interesting to me here in New Hampshire. Yesterday morning, we heard first in the morning on my show that tomorrow a progressive, more liberal Democrat is going to be announcing she's challenging Chris Pappas in that U.S. Senate race, the big U.S. Senate race here coming up in the midterms. And that's a challenge from the left to Mr. Pappas. My question is, do you think the politics of like this mayoral candidate in New York City, the Democrat, the socialist, he's overt, and of course the Manhattan on Saturday, they had thousands showing up. I don't know how many, right? Not far from where you are, Paul, this morning in what I would call a very clear anti-Israel rally, pro-Palestinian, but very anti-Israel based on the chants they were chanting. Is this going to sort of affect the local Democrat races in the country to see the real energy in the Democrat Party, or at least the more active, energetic part of the party, much further left than people like maybe some people here in New Hampshire on the Democrat side would want to win in a general election federally? Mhm. And I'm wondering at some point with Caroline Levitt, who's on my show quite a bit, we may be hearing from the president soon. I'll let you know on that. But if they're going to start, even mentioning anything at all about the U.S. Senate race here in New Hampshire and the candidates in thus far, are they going to be pushing for maybe a more, candidate they want, or are Scott Brown and Dan Ennis one of those two acceptable or preferable? So it's going to be interesting to see if we hear more from the White House on that Senate race here. Yeah. Yeah, about a year, but you and I know that in a Senate race, that's not that far, and still no big name Democrat running for governor in New Hampshire to challenge presumably Kelly Ayotte in that reelection. Thank you, Paul. All right, big reminder. Tomorrow at this hour, we'll be live doing the show live. CJ with me, our team DK CJ. We go with initials here, just like the Red Sox and the Bruins, but we're going to be live at the DoubleTree Hotel, downtown Manchester, the state's largest city. We're sponsoring the beginning of the Gail Singer Memorial Blood Drive, 2-day blood drive in downtown. We're going to be there 9 to noon tomorrow. Manchester Mayor Jay Rouet will help us kick it off along with Steven Singer. And the reason why it's important, we had that young mom on yesterday, um, Anna, talking about her daughter Charlotte, who at just 2 years old discovered just amazing. It's just amazing, sad story, but 2 years old had to go through a full round of chemotherapy for cancer. Her daughter Charlotte, and the donated blood, she said, saved her life. We don't have enough blood in the critical areas, and donations are down, so we're trying to raise that. Tomorrow we go live 9 to noon, downtown Manchester, for the 2-day blood drive. I'm proud that we're big sponsors of that part of the community. Speaking of the community, coming up in the 10 o'clock hour this morning, Chief Mark Armaganian, good friend of the show, on the New Hampshire liquor enforcement side of things. He's on regularly talking about public safety, and recently talked about a great partnership with Gunstock Ski Resort in Guilford, New Hampshire. Gunstock working with the state on a partnership for a great safe way to work with their licensees in the ski industry business. Of course, we're around the corner, believe it or not. I saw a promo or a post on social media. It was a cute one. I didn't get too mad at it. Beautiful home with the candles lit in the snow, and 25 weeks till Christmas. I'm like, okay, slow it down. We're already doing the back to school thing, but we're going to be hearing from with Mark Armaganian, 10 o'clock hour. Plus the Gunstock Resort. I'm a huge fan of it. Beautiful area, great experience for families and skiing, and they have that panorama lift. I think that's the name of it. Super, it's just a great, beautiful area, and I think it still has that charm that some of the other larger areas that sometimes lose that, but they got a real good thing going there. So we're going to hear from the CEO there with Chief Mark Armagani in the 10 o'clock hour. Hey Alexa, hey Google, play the Pulse of an HJ Dog. Before we go to the break, real quick, we asked you questions about, do you think Hurricane Aaron is really staying out into the ocean? The question, how far out? But the Atlantic Ocean, it's a big ocean, but it's a big storm. So is it gonna cause some, when we've seen these high tides with any surge at all, we've seen some local coastal flooding in places like Hampton Beach or Rye or South Portsmouth. Are we going to see any, yes or no? J Dog, our results from yesterday. Wow. Yeah, well, you heard yesterday that Democrat jumping in tomorrow. And you heard yesterday first here locally, former Governor Chris Sununu, who's been a guest host of the show, including recently, has taken a big job as the head of the airline Americas, or the American Airlines, the U.S. Airlines, the industry at the U.S. Airline industry. He's the head CEO of their big public affairs lobbying group in D.C. It's a full-time gig. He'll start that next month. You heard that here. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of Nature. Come back with Dean Spiliota, Southern Hampshire University, on deck next. All right, coming up in a little bit, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. You heard his questions yesterday of President Trump after he met with President Zelensky and European leaders at the White House. More from Decker in a few moments live, and big changes at MSNBC, or I guess MSNBC News gone as they split from NBC News. They're now going to be called, I guess they're going to be called, give me a minute, MS Now. So I don't know what happens to their programming, but MS Now, MSNBC, a thing of the past, as they say. Big changes in media. I'm just glad our numbers continue to go up with news talk. I think it marries very well with the phone and streaming in the app, the Pulse of an H. Download that on in addition to our AM and FM network of really good stations, including new FM HD2 Digital Clarity 98.7 right up into Maine, seacoast of New Hampshire, Dover, Rochester, Portsmouth, you name it. If you like that digital stuff, Claire. Dean Spiliotis, Southern New Hampshire University, one of our great political experts and analysts and partners out there. Good morning, Dean. We'll come back to New Hampshire because interesting developments, at least in the U.S. Senate race. But let's start with the White House. John Decker just reporting his questions yesterday. Very delicate, big stuff starting Friday with the meeting with Presidents Putin and Trump in Anchorage, Alaska. On to yesterday with Zelensky and European leaders, and maybe a next move. But it shows you the delicacy of trying to end this war. Oh, I agree. I agree with your. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dean. Mhm. Yeah, and it was interesting, because it was our John Decker that asked a very good question of the president yesterday about he had said he would be very upset if there wasn't a ceasefire after the Friday meeting with Putin, and then President Trump yesterday saying, "You know what? We don't need a ceasefire." One thing I'll say, and I know it's hard to separate the politics of the day, and you do a very good job just talking about the balls and strikes historically and contemporary. But even if you're a big Trump you're not a big fan of anything the Trump administration or this president does. It's amazing to me. I always look at it that way first. Um, what a deal maker, huh? I mean, no, just getting together with Vladimir Putin in this day and age, pulling it together and meeting and then having the flyover of the big bomber over Putin's head. I'm just saying, just the optics. And then to get that meeting yesterday at the White House with President Zelensky again, this time, albeit better dressed, but with all those European leaders coming, you are right from a historic point of view. Because if you look back on the Reagan Gorbachev stuff, you could go all the way back to World War II. These world meetings of world leaders in person are rare. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Dean Spiliota, Southern Hampshire University. Interesting. We yesterday morning I heard it first here when we were talking about tomorrow a Democrat, more progressive, liberal left than Chris Pappas is announcing in Manchester. The question, I'm not sure how organized the candidate will be, but seems pretty serious and going to be running. Big deal. That's a big decision to make. Running against Chris Pappas as a Democrat. I'm not surprised. We're still not seeing a Democrat jump into the governor's race, maybe a different dynamic. We may see another Republican jump into the U.S. Senate race on the primary side as well. But just your reaction to, and I'll give you the name of the candidate in a moment, but the Democrat announcing tomorrow. Hmm. Well, I would think that, you know, um, just a logical view of the analysis would concur with what you're saying. But it's interesting. This candidate, Karishma Manzoor, is from Exeter, first Democrat to mount a challenge to U.S. Representative Chris Pappas in the U.S. Senate race. But when Scott Brown, the Republican, was raising, and we just had Paul Steinhauser, Dean, earlier kick off the show. He's in New York City covering that New York mayor's race. But the Democrat mayoral candidate in New York City, talk about, a proud of, overt socialist, maybe even communist. I mean, a pretty, not really a pro-Israel person. Chris Pappas didn't he called Scott Brown raising a comparison or asking Pappas to comment on that New York mayoral candidate, pathetic. Chris Pappas said, raising that, knowing I'm a New Hampshire Democrat, I'm different, basically saying I'm different. But Manzoor, running in the primary, lives in Exeter, according to reports. She's best known publicly for her very outspoken op-eds opposing U.S. support for Israel completely and defending all the pro-Palestinian protests that were happening at UNH and beyond. My only question is, are those the type of things where, her position juxtaposed to Pappas in a primary, he's gonna have to comment on, how he's different? Yep, I agree. I don't think it's tamping down as an issue among Democrats, the split, because I think as things get more, uncertain in Gaza, although there's reports that maybe Hamas is more open to some kind of a ceasefire, but that's a very volatile situation. So people, yeah. All right, Dean, thank you very much on this, going a little bit early on this Tuesday. Thank you, Dean. We come back. Our own White House correspondent, John Decker, on deck next. All right, we are back. Of course, you can watch as well. We're streaming on YouTube at the Pulse of an H. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, live yesterday covering a very, I think, historic day at the White House with all the European leaders, President Zelensky. And of course, only Decker can ask the president a question about a ceasefire and get a multiple minute answer. Kind of like when he asked the president about, hey, what's going on with you and Elon? John Decker, our own White House correspondent, the very latest on the delicate diplomacy of trying to end a very big war in the Ukraine. Again, I know you don't get into direct politics, but you look at the meeting in Anchorage, Alaska, just to get with the Russian leader who's at war in Ukraine, and he started it, yes. But you look at the strategic power of Russia. I'm talking more on the arsenal side, not the economy. But then you look at the meeting yesterday at the White House. You are certainly seeing, and sometimes a stretched President Trump, meaning a very complicated situation, really showing his deal making powers to try at all cost to get a deal here, and he's doing what he can. And I know you don't get your full final grade in the term for effort, but a pretty remarkable effort to try and end a war and showing the deal making tenacity of this president. And I can't think of a time recently where we've seen this from a White House, and I'm talking both parties. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. And what would be the big goal next is to get some kind of a meaningful direct meeting between President, Putin and Zelensky, something that Vladimir Putin's been reluctant to do, to kind of meet in person with his adversary or someone he views not on the same stage. Would that be the next goal here? Yep. Thank you, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. We are learning more about a very sad story, very, very sad story in Madbury, New Hampshire. Mohariment Drive. I'm trying to figure out the pronunciation on this, J Dog, and Mohariment Drive or Mohariment Drive in Madbury. About 8:21 last night, according to reports. The bodies of two children, two adults. A third young child was found alive and unharmed at the house. Police are investigating. State police were there as well. local sources are telling us uh, Mohammed Drive is the I'm being told. Local sources are telling us that the one of the two parents shot and killed her two kids, and then her husband and the third child was found alive and unharmed in the house. No motives yet at this point, no identities, but again, a very, very sad story out of Madbury, New Hampshire. And this happening last evening about 8:21. And at some point, I'm sure we're going to hear at least the identities, but a very, very sad story. Thoughts and prayers just with anyone involved on the responding side. You know, you think of how difficult any of these calls are, but imagine being the detectives or the police or the officers to go into that home. Just a sad story. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. But that's out of Madbury on the seacoast. Madbury, of course, not far from our Dover studios as you come out of Portsmouth, Madbury, Barrington. Very, very popular new growing area, actually, as Portsmouth has ballooned. Again, Madbury, sad story. We'll keep you posted. You know, before we come back, recently we had a lot of news about the Public Utilities Commission granting rate hikes and just about everything the big utilities wanted. But the point is, your electricity, your energy rates in New Hampshire are going up, not down. They're going up, not down. It's confusing. Sure is. But if you're a big user of electricity and natural gas, we got a guest coming up, an expert, to try and shed some insight on this. We recently had the Governor Kelly Ayotte, on the show a week or so ago, asking her if she was concerned about the Public Utilities Commission granting these big rate hike requests. And all the requests basically that Eversource, the largest, and other utilities wanted. And she said she sure is. Maybe rethinking future nominations to the Public Utilities Commission, but ratepayers. But if you're a commercial ratepayer, it is not getting better. We're paying some of the highest energy rates per capita in the country. And even if you think you got a good deal, you really need to be smarter than what you think you know about the market. And what happens a lot of times, businesses, companies that are big users of energy have in-house bean counters, and they think they're experts on this energy stuff. You have to be really, really savvy. I don't know about you, but if I tore my rotator cuff, I don't think I'm operating on myself. So there are surgeons out there to do that. And there are a lot of surgeons and a lot of stockbrokers, as you know, but then there are a few really good ones. We're going to hear from an expert on this to try and shed some insight on if you're a big energy user. Also, on the gold and silver front, our friends at Alpine Gold, you've been hearing a lot about the economy, investments, and all that. Sometimes it goes right over your head. Sometimes it goes over mine. But one thing you do know is the debt is huge, never been bigger. And the value of the dollar with inflation and everything else, you just don't get as much for your buck. Let's be honest. It's a pretty simple math. You don't get as much for your buck. And one of the things that holds are gold and silver. And I got to tell you, we work with Adam Van at Alpine Gold. They have a new office location for members on 1800 Elm Street in Manchester. We'll be down the road there tomorrow for our blood drive at the Doubletree Hotel on Elm Street in Manchester, but 1800 Elm, the home of Alpine Gold. The reason why I'm telling you all this is you should go there today. And if you want to get some silver or some gold, you can buy online, have it shipped to your home, and at checkout, put in the pulse for the pulse of an H, but just the pulse. One word, though. Put it in as one word. The pulse, one word. The pulse. Get free shipping. And if you join, get some other perks for saying the pulse at checkout, saying Jack Radio, the pulse. But you get it shipped for free if you want it sent to your house. If you want them to hold it, fine. They're headquartered out in Utah. They're a good group. And gold and silver hold their value. Silver, according to Adam, not me, according to Adam, is going to go up this fall because of all the use and even data centers. They use silver, manufacturing, and just the supply of silver. So finally, silver a lot more affordable than gold. But if you want to buy some, alpinegold.com, alpine like skiing.com, and use the pulse as your checkout. The pulse. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the pulse of an H. Back in a moment. All right, we are back on this Tuesday, a little cooler than we've been experiencing. We're keeping an eye, at least on the marine forecast, towards the weekend with Hurricane Erin as well out in the ocean. But of course, in the Atlantic, that's not the case if you're in the Outer Banks of North Carolina right now. Going into tomorrow, we'll see. I was just setting up our next segment talking about the confusion recently with the Public Utilities Commission granting a bunch of rate hikes for the utilities. And all it means for you and me is we're paying more. Let me cut to the chase. All this stuff is so intentionally complicated sometimes. Stranded cost, distribution, supply, buy. The point is we're paying more. And I think we're paying too much in this region for electricity and natural gas. Governor Kelly Ayotte was on my show a week ago. She agrees with me. We had executive councils on the show. But I was thinking, if you're a big user of energy, how do you navigate this market? I mean, if you're a commercial, so please listen, if you're a business owner, you're a company out there, many of you are. You might have 4 locations. You know what you're paying. You look at the money going out. You know how much it costs. If it's costing a household or a condominium in a normal home $580 a month for electricity, you know what you're paying for your commercial operation. You know what? You need a strategy. You need to know this market. And you know what happens? I'm going to say it. Our next guest may not. Is many of these companies have someone in house that could be the CFO, the bean counter, and they think they're an energy expert because they know a broker. Maybe they take them out to lunch and buy the turkey club. It's like a health broker. They tell them you can't do any better. Well, you can if you have the right surgeon. And you need to know the market on natural gas and electricity, especially if you're a big user. Steve Roberson back in. He's a pretty good expert on this stuff. He's been an expert on my show for a while. He's got his Harbor Light Energy Group on the Seacoast. But Steve's calling in to kind of explain this confusion and what's happening with electricity and natural gas. Good morning, Steve. It's a lot to comprehend for just a residential homeowner or a tenant, let alone a big commercial user of energy, right? Now, Steve, I personally, I'm not saying you have to agree with me. But I personally believe when things are complicated, like when you in healthcare, if you tear your shoulder or a ligament in your knee, and no one can tell you how much the surgery is going to cost, they don't want you to know. The system in energy, it's very complex, and you can't even understand your utility bill. I think it's intentionally made that way, but can you, if you're a big user of electricity and gas in New Hampshire, you're saying you can look at what they're doing, and with the right strategy, you can actually help that big user. What does that mean, Steve? Hmm. Right. Do you think there are big users of like companies and businesses out there? They may be using power almost all day and all night for shifts that they either think there's nothing they can do, so they're held hostage to this price stuff, or they have someone in the house that they think they're an expert, but they're probably not, and they're unaware that they can do better. Do you think there's a lot of that out there? Right. Yep. Well, interesting. Well, yeah. Right. Well, all I know is if I'm an owner and I'm spending six figures on my energy bill and I can save 50 or 60 or 70 grand and put it back into my business, I'm going to do that. I'm not that big of a fan of those supplying me energy. Hey, real quick, Governor Ayotte agrees with you on that. We just had a listener ask me to ask you about natural gas, and you touch upon it. Governor Ayotte last week talking about all this stuff. So, can you help with natural gas because natural gas is such a clean energy source? But we're at the end of the line. We don't have enough of it here. Do you have an expertise in that as well? Wow. Awesome. What's the best way if I'm just a business owner and want to just touch base? You do any like, website, phone? What's the best way? All right, worth it. Thank you, Steve, for the lot there. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Again, when we talk about healthcare, I'm from the school that if you can't understand it, they don't want you to. I mean, if I go to one of our great sponsors, Auto Fair, and I want to buy a new pickup truck or a SUV, I could just, just dumb me. I can go look in the window in the showroom of the lot, and there's probably a breakdown on the price, and there's a price at the bottom. There's a price. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot to get a new dishwasher or refrigerator, there's usually a price on the door. Somewhere there's a price. Healthcare, oh, I need to get my ACL ligament fixed. How much is it going to cost me? We don't know, but go here, go there, get your blood drawn, do this, show up here. Don't worry about it. You'll be getting bills for 6 months. Don't ask. Just do it. I mean, they don't want you to know. There's no transparency, and energy is just as bad. Oh my goodness, we are getting hosed here in New Hampshire, in Maine. Maine, oh my goodness, we are getting hosed. We are getting screwed over big time. That's just like homeowners, condominium, apartment. And if you're paying your electricity, look at your bill. It's going up. And you know what? You look at the breakdown of your bill when you get it, no matter what utility, you can't even understand it. You need a third language. You need a third language to understand the breakdown of the cost. And all I know is that thing down below that they tell me I owe for last month is getting up and higher. It's getting closer to $600 or $500 than 250. That's all I know. So I think usually when things are very complicated, they're complicated for a reason. They don't want you to understand it. We come back. Hey, we got a great story about one of our terrific ski areas. Well, actually, they're a resort. And the state of New Hampshire coming up. We'll meet the CEO of Gunstock Resort, Ski Resort Guilford, and Chief Mark Armaganian, New Hampshire Liquor Enforcement coming up. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the pulse of an H. Jack, Heath, J-Dog on the boards. We are back in a few.